so bring the meeting to order at 7:19. Let's see, we are going to have a meeting to discuss a change order for the bandstand improvements and also discuss the backflow preventer. Paul, you want to start?
Sure. So I'm sure everyone saw John Morgan's email. He voiced his concerns. Those align with what he voiced last Thursday at our meeting. So just a couple of points. First of all, I take a little bit of umbrage with him saying that the process was rushed. I agree that we did need to get the public hearing done with in short order to allow us enough time to make sure that we could continue to proceed with this, because we had a project ongoing. We didn't know at that time that the project was going to take longer because of all of the COVID-related supply chain disruptions, but it has. And we took advantage of that opportunity to work with Neil on the design. We met with him multiple times, initially to provide him our input on what it is we were looking for. Then again, when he provided us 2 versions, then a third time when it was determined that one of those versions wasn't tenable, he came back with more. Then we had a public hearing. We secured input from the public on what they wanted. They agreed that they were interested in moving forward with the concept with the slope. And I forget, what is the degree of the slope? I can't remember. For the, to not have handrails. It was
1 in 20.
1 in what?
20.
1 in 20 versus 1 in 12. Remember the 1 in 12, couldn't remember the 1 in 20. So people were for that design. So we took that and we met more with Neil and gave more input and more refinement. And he continued to work on those plans and had communication with myself and Andy. Frankly, he brought in a structural engineer that we probably we really didn't need the input from, and that made things take longer than it would have otherwise. And that's led to one of the reasons why is higher than folks thought, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I really do think that we've given adequate time to this, and don't feel that it was as rushed as he made his impression was. So that's one thing. And I will point out, we all voted unanimously on this design, including him, for it. So, when we got the price, I think we all had a bit of sticker shock.
Definitely.
And, it's a public project. And one thing we have to remember is that public projects require prevailing wage, which tends to make them significantly more expensive than those done in the private sector. And the reality is the cost is what it is. We've gone out to another contractor in the area, Mike Lapermato from Antonelli Construction, and confirmed that the price is within a reasonable range for the work that's being done. We shared with him our plans, the pricing that we had gotten, and asked for his professional opinion, which he provided. And then he also pointed out that his company a few years back did the work on Shrewsbury Common to make their bandstand accessible, and that project was $100,000. So in line with what we're talking about here. So the price is what it is. We can wish that it was less, but that's not going to make it so. The best I really felt we could do was to verify that it's within the range of what could reasonably be expected in the market today, and that's what we've done. I wouldn't anticipate prices to go down if we don't move forward and look instead to go out to bid at a later date. Construction costs tend to increase, particularly lately with all the COVID issues. And if we, as Mr. Morgan suggested, decide we want to revisit the design, there will be architectural fees associated with that, as well as a potential for additional construction costs, which will, I assure you, drive the price up. So bearing those things in mind, if we think about it, if we don't move forward now, we need to start over from scratch. This will involve a minimum of applying to CPC and securing their support, then going to town meeting in May for approval, and then preparing new bid documents, going out to bid, and you have to be out to bid for a while. It's probably about a 3 to 4 week process, all told. And by the way, that's another added expense, going out to bid again. And while, these things may seem easy on the surface when you just talk about them, let me tell you, they're not. There is significant work in each of those steps to get it to there. And there's no guarantee that we'll secure the needed funding. And if we don't, then, there's always the potential that this committee could lose control over what is to be done down the road. So just things we have to consider. The timing also would be less than ideal for securing bids. So you're talking, and we don't go out into June, it would be the end of June by the time we are able to make a decision. And, getting those bids at that time is not going to be as competitive, because most of the companies have already gotten their work for the season at that point. There may be some that think they'll finish early and can maybe squeeze this in at the end. But when you have less competition, it doesn't tend to drive down prices. It tends to do the opposite.
So Paul, I think these are all things that we talked about last time, and I think that they're all
Yeah. If I could just finish my thought, because I feel
sure.
like John had a chance to espouse his thoughts in that note, and so I'm almost done.
Okay, no, that's great.
Okay. So sorry, I just need to figure out my place here. Also, if we get fewer bids with less competition, we might decide we need to rebid, which would drag this out further and incur additional costs. And the bottom line is we can reasonably anticipate it would be about 1 to 2 years before we'd be able to get this work done. And do we really want to have the rest of the project finished and leave the bandstand looking as it does with tape around it because it's not safe for 1 to 2 years? We've done our due diligence. We have a fair price from the current contractor to do the work. Even if it can't fully be completed this season, it will still be done far sooner than if we chose to go out with this as a separate project. So my last point is, let's not lose sight of the big picture. There is currently community support for this work. People are expecting it to be done. Even with the addition of this much needed improvement, we're still going to come in significantly under budget, to the tune of plus or minus around $100,000. So we're adding significant improvements, and we're still going to come in way under budget. So I don't see why we would not move forward with it. So that's my 2 cents. I asked Andy to be here because he's been working closely with PJ. I know, and I did convey to him the request that was put forth at our last meeting to try and get some more itemization from PJ, and he can talk about that. He can also talk about the backflow preventer once we're ready to go to that point. But I don't know if anyone else had something they wanted to add before we asked Andy to do that.
Okay, sure. Actually, I would like to just say a couple things. So I think that, everyone here and everyone in our meeting last week all agree that this is an important part of the project and it's an important part of the common. And it really, brings together everything that, that the town wants. It's a great place to bring people together, and it's a great, sensibilization of the project. So I think that's, and Paul, I wasn't there, but just hearing all the steps that are involved, I know that it's a lot of work, and a lot of work on your part for sure, for putting together all of these pieces. And I for one am very appreciative that you were able to do all that, and that you had the time and the understanding to be able to do it. So thank you for doing all that. And I completely agree with all of your points. They're extremely valid. I have some questions related to the project cost. It just, to me, seems still like a lot, even with all of those points and the timeline. So I wasn't sure if you guys were able to get the breakdown of the cost, because I think we've talked about a couple times, understanding what the cost drivers are. And I know that you talked about the prevailing wage, but it'd be interesting and informative to understand what portion of the bid is the cost of labor and what the other costs are. To me, the costs are still concerning, but if we have that information, that might be helpful in getting a better understanding.
So I guess we could, does someone else have something before we move on, or can Andy address that?
Well, at some point, I'd like to read John's letter. I'm not sure if you've all read it, but I told him I would read it, so.
You want to read that now, then? That probably makes sense.
Sure. So John wrote to me a few days ago, a scheduling conflict has arisen and I won't be able to make the Zoom meeting on Wednesday to discuss the bandstand change order. Since I can't attend, I did want to express my thoughts and hope you and the other members of the commission will take them into account as you make a decision on whether to bring the change order to the Board of Selectmen. Since I can't attend, I did want, I think I'm reading that over again. I'll get my reading glasses here. To begin, I appreciate the arguments for moving forward, i.e. schedule for substantial completion, funding availability, safety issue of current condition of the bandstand, project management resources, etc. That said, as a town commission, we have the responsibility of fully vetting a significant change order. The commission needs a complete breakdown of the costs and should have at least a couple of comparative breakdowns so we can go to the Board of Selectmen with a credible defense of the cost. I don't feel relying on a conversation with a contractor that did similar work is sufficient backup to justify bringing a $116,000 change order to the Board of Selectmen for approval. At this point, I am uncomfortable and cannot agree to spending that amount of money without detailed backup information to support the request. I know it's not the preferred course of action, but I feel we have the opportunity to revisit the bandstand restoration. Although I voted for the design, I was never satisfied that we explored all options to make the bandstand accessible. The whole process was rushed in order to meet a schedule that, as it turned out, kept on pushing out further and further. The bandstand is the centerpiece of the common and the town symbol. So from my perspective, we should ensure that this significant alteration is done right, as its impact to the common will be felt for many years to come. I have copied the other members to implore everyone to step back and consider whether the current design, its cost and impact to the common is in the best interest of the common, the historic district, and the town. Okay, so that's what he wrote. And I agree with Betsy and with John. I would really like to see a breakdown of the costs. I do agree it's a big price tag, but also I think we've decided on a design for the bandstand and the ramp and so forth, and I kind of feel like that ship has sailed, and so I mean we all voted on that, and I think it's a perfectly good plan, a good design, so I'm okay with that. But I do have trouble myself with the cost of it, and I'd like to see a breakdown of costs. So I'll let you, Andy, can you speak to any of that? And then as far as
yeah, so this is all interesting. I'm actually I'm about 3/4 of the way through a refresher class for public purchasing officials for the state of Massachusetts. So this has been interesting to go through this part right now and be going through these refresher classes. It's 4 days of 8 hour a day classes that covers all the public purchasing, bidding requirements and rules and regulations. So I guess a few comments about that. I think, I know John said we should be getting other numbers. That's not the way public bidding works. Remember, we're going for a change order at this point, so you don't typically shop around the work to other people to get comparison quotes. I think the fact that we did go out to a reputable contractor that the town is working with right now and got some validation of the cost is really good. I think that I think that there's a comfort level there that that made a few of us at least feel like we're in the right ballpark. I know the contractor, I've spoken to them several times about, the level of cost breakdown that he's given us so far. I'll tell you that having gone through a number of change orders on several projects, that the level of information that he's given us so far has been pretty typical. The cost information that he's given us for this specifically has been mostly centered around giving us information that we could make decisions with to, if there's scope reductions or, if there's a menu of items that we want to consider to be in or out. That was sort of the intent of the cost that he's provided. Just thinking it through, most of the change orders that we got for the library and the cost breakdown there, it's not typical to get a complete cost breakdown of of everything everywhere. Kind of depends on the change order. I'm sure that this particular general contractor, if I went back to him and said, this isn't going anywhere unless you give us a complete breakdown. He's been super good about working with us and wanting to work with us and wanting to, make this happen. I mean, he's a Grafton guy. He understands the importance of the common and the bandstand, and he wants to make it happen. So if I went back to him and said, this isn't going to happen unless you give us the full breakdown, I'm sure he'll do it. But his intent so far has been what we've asked him for, which is tell us where the cost drivers are so that we can make a decision about what stays in and what goes out.
Right.
I don't think that the additional cost information is going to change anybody's mind. I think we've already had the validation. And so I'm not sure what that additional cost information is going to do for us, other than filling in a blank that isn't really, I don't want to say it's not relevant, but it's not going to change anybody's decision, basically. However,
it could change mine.
But I mean, we're not looking for full cost, right?
Yeah.
well, it sounds like everybody wants to know every single cost about every.
No. That's not what we meant. What we actually, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're looking for like a general sense of parts and labor, right? It's like when you go fix a car, you get parts and you get labor. So those are two distinct categories that almost like every purchase, every contract that we look at needs to have these two pieces, and they come together at the end. So we're really looking for, when we go to the select board and they're going to ask us like, what is the total material cost, and plus what is the cost of the labor to, fix the common or fix the bandstand. We're not asking for him to break down every single detail, SOW, work by work, piece by piece. I think that's an overestimate. It's too much to ask of any contractors. But it's just a general sense of how do we actually come up with this $90,000? It seems like to me it's a very large sum to put down. Is it a 70-30 distribution, or is it like more like a 60-40? Because we don't know the prevailing wage or the labor costs for a public. We do. Okay.
That's public record for this project. I had to request the prevailing wage rates for this specific project. So that is definitely something we know.
But we don't know how many hours it's going to take.
That's right.
We know the wage, but we don't know. Yeah. I guess I'm just, I guess I'm just wondering where the hesitation is, because I feel like where the hesitation is in asking the vendor, because
there's no hesitation. So far, what we've asked him for is cost information that would help us make decisions about scope. And so if everybody's okay with the information that we have about items that would be in or not in, if you want to know, get the breakdown between labor and materials, I'll ask him for it. He's been, like I said, he's been very willing to give us information that we've asked for.
Yeah, because the what you showed us for the information about the in or not in, those really wouldn't be the cost drivers because they don't add up that much. You know what I mean? Like the whole job is 121,000 and you guys came back with a group of things that could be reduced, but those were like 10%.
A little under 29,000.
Yeah.
Under 29.
But those are the items that were under discussion, right?
Right.
So we don't really have a choice. Those are things that we have a choice to make. If the floorboards or the floor joists are rotted, we don't really have a choice to do those or not do those. But what we can do is we can get a breakout between labor and materials.
I mean, I guess I'd want to see. I don't know. I've done 100 RFPs. I work for the government. I've done 100 bids. I've run committees. I get the whole thing. I completely know how it works. I've never, ever asked anyone to make a decision without giving them a breakdown. And so I guess a couple weeks ago, not last meeting, but the meeting before, we asked for a breakdown. And I guess I'm just wondering why we can't get one if we
You
need.
absolutely can. I
don't get the hesitation. That's all I'm trying to understand.
So again, there's no hesitation. I didn't really get it. I didn't really hear it that we were looking for a labor versus material breakdown. And that's very different than just give me a breakdown of everything. So I'll talk to him tomorrow and he'll do it. I no question about it whatsoever.
We really didn't talk about labor versus the material last week. We talked about maybe some more broad categories to provide it. But if people want material versus that's fine. The only issue we have here, folks, is we got to move forward with this. We're currently scheduled for select board meeting on Tuesday.
But that's why I don't understand why we can't, like, I guess I'm really sorry, but I feel like this is the conversation that we had last week. So that's why I feel like we can move forward if we get that information.
Yeah. And I don't think we've been completely clear, and maybe I'm partially to blame for that, but I didn't hear material versus labor last week. I never heard
actually
those.
Truthfully, that would be great, but I bet we'll come up with another question when we see that. So whatever he can give us to get us to better understand where the numbers come from. If he says labor and materials, there's still going to be questions. So can he get us to a place where we can understand why it costs so much? If you're getting something for that amount of money, you want to know why. And, maybe I'll probably be the first one to vote yes, but I want to understand why. And that we need the numbers. So if you give me materials and cost and then come back, we'll still probably have questions. We need to understand what makes it up that is making people hesitate on the number.
And perhaps part of this is that what we're asking for is not what normally contractors are asked to do. And I may be wrong on that. Andy, maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think John was trying to say something. He's on mute, but
yep, I just talked away and for nothing.
We just heard your lips moving, and
you were
I couldn't make
smart.
out what you're saying.
Me off. Would it not be helpful to have the contractor? Because if they're going to, even if he provides those numbers and there's still going to be questions, it seems like he's the missing piece of the puzzle. We need him at the meeting so that he can be asked. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Because, and I'll just add my 2 cents, because I'm on the library committee and we spent $1 million on contaminated soil removal that each and every month that was another $100,000 and another $100,000. And none of us liked it, but we understood that that's what the cost was. We didn't, we kind of, like you said, I think we did get, this is what the tipping fee is, and this is, whatever, just in generalities, but it was a huge piece that we had not planned on for our project. We thought that was going to be our extra money. Fortunately, we don't have that problem. That the first part of this project was under the estimated price, so we do have some wiggle room. I share some of Paul's concerns of we can't redo this in the future. Just not with the money. Right now, if it's $90,000, $100,000 in a year from now or 2 years from now, you're going to be saying, "I wish it were that." cheap. It'll be 150, 175,000. So I'm
Yeah.
not downplaying the expenses that are being charged. And I certainly understand and would hope that we can get those numbers and then we can move forward quickly. But a lot of it's just, unfortunately, in the world of government contracts, it is what it is, and you pay what they say.
I think the only part that I feel a little bit more comfortable was we talked about it last week, right? We had a third party look at, this quotation or this project, and we kind of looked at how Shrewsbury, Bandstand Shrewsbury, how that worked. And it was kind of in the scope of, the price that we got. I mean, that was really the only piece that made me think, we did third-party analyses, and it's not like biased towards one part or another, but we don't know what information was given, to the Shrewsbury, town committee that did the work, right? Did they get the breakdown of everything, or was it just the same sort of format as we received from JM at this time?
Andy, what is the norm? What do you normally do with change orders? My experience is obviously less than yours. I haven't seen that level of detail provided in the projects that I've been involved with, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen.
I mean, I have, it depends on the scope. It depends on what the change order is for. So in this case, I mean, we're getting a price that's based on the architect's drawings, but also the contractor's interpretation of some of the scaling back of some of this stuff. So he did a quote of the drawings and specs, but his current quote is, backing off of some of that stuff. So it's some deducts from the construction drawings without actual revised drawings. So he's taken his best shot at, all right, we've talked about, we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that. So that's what he's just sort of, it's a little bit of a combination of, the construction documents and some discussion about how to pare this thing back.
Right. And I don't want to speak for everyone, but I for my own self, I don't see moving forward with removing anything other than the two items that are related to the foundation, the number 3 and number 4, which I believe totaled $7,500, right around there.
I would tend to agree. Quick question for Andy. You have experience with the town, having worked with the town. In your opinion, I know just asking for your opinion. Do you think we have enough to go before the Board of Selectmen in terms of the cost estimates?
Yes, but I think that there's going to be some. I think they're going to have the same kind of questions. So I think it's a good thing to do, to go back to the GC and ask for a little more information. I do think that I think in general that I think your average person that's not in the industry is going to look at this and go, whoa, $92,000. That's what are we building a new house? What are we doing?
20. Yeah.
It sounds that there's a bit of sticker shock in there, and the fact that we did have somebody else vet that number, I think is very valuable. But I do agree that it would be better to have some more breakdown, so that when the select board asks the question, we can point to something.
Okay. Can we? I realize we've got a meeting. The Board of Selectmen meets next Tuesday, and they probably meet 2 weeks after that. Is that right?
So if we don't go before them on the 2nd, the next chance, unless they have an off-cycle meeting, which they sometimes do, would be November 16th. That's going to eat into what little time we have with nicer weather, most likely. So I know Andy has talked before that they can do work even when the snow is on the ground and whatnot. They won't be able to finish clearly because there will be painting that will need to be done. And I would imagine by the time they get to that point, it'll be too cold. But, even if that happens and they finish the painting in the spring, it's still, as I intimated before, far sooner than it would be if we had to start over again.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree.
And there's going to be other work that's going to have to be finished in the spring. We had, as you all know, the new archway and light taken out last Saturday early morning, like 3 o'clock.
It was
So
do we
that-
actually find the I guess, do we have any video or any
We know who did it.
we know who did it. Police were there. He's
Police did it.
insured. He wasn't incapacitated from a
alcohol related?
alcohol type thing, but he fell asleep. And so he didn't make the turn and drove straight into it, our brand new archway and light,
Yeah.
which wasn't even up for 12 hours.
But
I mean,
they
you
do
can't
know
make
what
that
it is,
stuff
and
up.
they will be going after his insurance.
So yes, a claim was already filed. Evan filed it. He has asked us to get pricing on the archway and a new light to go into it. We'd also like to see about getting the existing light repaired, if possible, so that we have a spare. That wouldn't be borne by the insurance company. That would have to come out of this project cost.
There was also some like fence, right, that kind of got bumped off. I know there's like a piece.
There's the posts, and those are the bigger posts. And by the way, you can't get Milford pink anymore, I found out.
that right?
There's- Yeah, it's no longer available. So I forget what they said the other one was, but it's something rose or rose something. At any rate, those posts are larger than most of the posts at each of the entryways. They're bigger. So we'll need 2 big ones. They did mention that the smaller posts cost $1,200 each. So I imagine the bigger ones are more. And then they're going to have to be re-drilled. So there's going to be labor with that. There was damage to the walkway. There was oil spilled on it, which
Yep.
permanently stained it. Brick will need to be replaced. There was also some skid marks and scratches, and I'm not sure. I couldn't tell if the scratches were deep or whatnot, but that has to be all investigated and a price determined so that
Yep.
we can present that to the insurance company and then, have the work done.
Well, as
But
I said, we do have matching brick across the street at the library.
Do you have extra brick?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they purchased the same brick to use for the front walkway for the library to match the common. So there is extra there, so we'll be able to replace anything that we need to.
That's great.
Yeah, that's good.
Also, regarding the utility pole, I talked to Paul Canoia last week to see if he had any contacts at National Grid. He said he did know someone, and he called him on Monday, and they said that the reason that pole hasn't been taken down is because the invoice had been cut and sent to the town of Grafton, which apparently Paul looked for or had someone in accounting. It just arrived last week. So once that's paid, which will happen next week, then and National Grid receives payment, then they will schedule it. And that will be turning the juice on and also removing that pole. So we don't know when it's going to be scheduled for, but at least the wheels are in motion. So
right, that invoice, we had done the paperwork pre-invoice, and then the invoice just arrived the other day. I think we might have actually squeezed it into tomorrow's warrant. I'm not 100% sure if it made it in there or not, but I know that it's gone through the process right now, so we should be able to get that out.
Is that coming out of this project's costs, fees, money, funds?
Yes,
So I don't think John or I saw that.
I will forward it to.
Mute
yeah,
again.
I'm not sure the amount, but
I've got it.
okay. So let's I suggest that we ask JAM for an itemized or a better itemized quotation that breaks out the labor and so forth, and that we have another meeting. I guess next Monday or Tuesday.
I think we have to give him enough time to get that together. I
that's
know
true.
Andy's doing this
Right.
in his spare time, so it's not always easy for him to communicate with PJ. So we'll give him a little time to get that information to him and then for
Okay.
PJ to
Yep.
pull it together. I
Good
can
suggestion.
cancel our meeting on the 5th and ask them to move it to the 16th or potentially the week after if they have anything. I will have to explore that. I don't know if they do or not. So it would either be most likely the 16th or the 9th.
I talk to Paul, I talk to PJ almost every day. So I'll talk to him tomorrow morning and see. I mean, he's got everything else pulled together for this thing. He should be able to squeeze that out tomorrow if he's not, you know, doing a million other things. I know tomorrow is not a rainy day, so they may be trying to get some other things done, but I'll give him a shout in the morning and let him know what we're looking for.
So knowing what we do know, can we at least make a determination based on what we know if we were going to eliminate anything? Because we had the suggestions of those, there were 4 items. 2 of them are really related to the foundation, in total 7,500. The other one was for not doing brick on top of the concrete for the elevated walkway. And the other one was replacing the roof shingles, or not replacing them, I should say.
I think we should go ahead with everything except for the foundation. That's
So
my
eliminate items 3 and 4, which would be $7,500 less. So the cost would be, as we know it today, $114,080.
Brad, how do you feel?
I agree with that.
Okay, Betsy?
You're on mute, Betsy.
Yep. That's tricky. I guess I would want to see the whole thing before, the whole breakdown before thinking about it. I mean, if you're up to 114, what's another 7,000 to make the foundation good? So I don't
Well, the
know.
reason being that it's not required by code. The building has lasted since 1935 with the existing structure.
Yeah.
And so if we're concerned about cost, why would we add $7,500 that we don't need? That doesn't really serve any purpose other than, I guess, extra security.
And how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I brought up the issue with the parts and labor, right? So I think no questions asked, like, the parts that we don't need, right? Just that last $7,500. I'm fine without that. And the other 3 items, that he originally said we're going to exclude, we're actually not going to exclude those items, right? We're going to keep them in our budget.
Well, I'm asking you if you agree with that.
Yeah, no, that's fine by me. I think apparently I'm not a structural engineer, but I think from everybody else's perspective, I think these are items that we can keep.
Okay. Does that give you your answer, Paul?
Yeah, I just wanted to get that so we have, a better idea of what the price is in total, because that's not going to change with the detail he's going to give us. The total is going to be what it's going to be.
Correct.
So if we can agree that we do want to eliminate items 3 and 4, but leave items 1 and 2 in, then the price should be $114,080.
Well, I will say that if he gives us the breakdown and somebody sees something and we have a discussion about, is that really going to be 27 hours worth of work, and we question some of that stuff. I mean, if there's something like that happens, then the price could come down some more. So that's the value, I think, of getting that extra breakdown, is that you might see something else that we want to have a discussion about.
I'm more concerned in knowing that we don't want to remove the doing the roof.
Right.
Yep. Done. And I don't think that removing the brick for $5,500 will end up with a elevated walkway that fits with the rest of the work that's being done in the common. You'll end up with a concrete walkway where everything else is brick, and it would stand out like a sore thumb in my mind. And so I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page with that, or if we're not, to be able to discuss it. That's all.
Okay. So I think we all agree there. And How about the next meeting? When will we schedule that for?
So Andy, knowing what we have for the amounts, he just has to plug them in, but he has the change orders pretty much ready to go. So, once we have a decision, we'll be able to get those off to the select board quickly. Typically, they want to see those if they're meeting on a Tuesday, typically Thursday or the latest Friday. They would like to have that information so that they can review it in advance of the meeting and be able to ask, questions. So if we are to meet, I would say we got to meet in the earlier part of the week. And it just depends on whether that's next week, as to whether or not there's even a chance for an off-cycle meeting the following week, or if we have to wait to the 16th, we could actually do it anytime next week or by the beginning of the following week. So maybe plan for best case scenario is that there is an off-cycle meeting and they will be meeting on the 12th and try and aim for that. If we aim for that, then I would say we would want to meet by Wednesday of next week at the latest. That seem reasonable, Andy? You have that by then to be able to get the information together.
I think that's fine.
What's people's calendar like for early next week?
I am in Pittsburgh until sometime late Tuesday. I'm not sure, but I'll be available for Wednesday. Probably not Monday or Tuesday. Definitely not Monday. Probably not Tuesday either.
Wednesday works for me, the 6th.
Wednesday, I've got a conflict at 7, but I can meet anytime before, like 6 is good.
Wednesday is fine for me. Potentially the 3rd.
3rd?
November 3rd.
Oh, I'm looking at October. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong month. My bad.
The 3rd? Yeah. The 3rd.
Yeah, the 3rd. Sorry. I was looking at October.
Okay for me.
The 3rd at 6. How does that work for the rest of you?
It's fine.
Andy?
I can do it if it's remote. I'm actually going to be up there, but I'm going to be at the Cape. I'm just getting in and taking a bus to Chatham. So won't be to Grafton until Thursday.
Yep, we can do remote again. We have to figure out what we had to do to get logged on though. Who would, oh, you did it, Bill, because you got on as Grafton Board of Health.
Right.
Okay.
So would it be a remote, a hybrid meeting then, the same, or would you have it all be remote?
I'd prefer all remote myself, but I'm open to either.
Because if it's hybrid, you have to have a staff person at the municipal center to do the rigmarole.
You need a special room too, so let's just do remote.
Let's just do Zoom for regular remote.
And we have to post this to the town clerk as well.
Yeah, we need a 48-hour advance warning for them to post it. So Bill can take care of that, like he usually does.
So Paul, can you tomorrow find out if they're going to have a special meeting, just to confirm that the 3rd is when we're going to have our meeting?
Yep, I will do that, and I will also reschedule with them for whatever date that they have. Either the I got to look at the 2 dates. I keep looking at the wrong month. Either the 9th or the 16th.
Okay, so we can talk tomorrow or Friday, and I will put out the agenda on Friday if we're moving ahead with having the meeting on the 3rd.
Yep. So on the damage that was done, I don't know if an appraiser is going to come out or not to look at everything. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't, apparently. But we're looking for a new archway and a new light at a minimum. So Andy, have you already talked to Jam about that?
Yes, I had asked PJ to put together a price to replace everything.
Okay, all right, good. I'm guessing it's gonna be 15, 20,000. I'm just guessing.
That's expensive for a light or a post.
It's not, it's, you know,
It's a lot
the
more work.
archway, which is all custom made, the light, which is all custom made. You know, having to get the new granite, drilling into the granite, all the
And
electric
it's all brand new,
connections have to be
literally.
redone.
brand new.
Brick has to be replaced.
So, but that doesn't really solve the issue if it's not going to happen again, right? Because that intersection is like, you know, hectic,
Well,
right?
I don't know if it makes you feel better or worse that it wasn't a drunk driver. Person fell asleep, and yeah, that could happen again. But it's not like somebody was drunk and drove through it. It's not like somebody didn't follow a traffic sign, or they were confused with the intersection. I think those are all things that do happen up there regularly. But you know, this was just kind of a will of God type of thing.
I think we do need to consider putting some bollards along that section of the common.
Well,
You know,
they need, yeah, that's a good point, and I'm glad you referenced that. We have our electrical panel right there in the line of sight. We definitely need them in front of that.
Yeah, the utility pole partially protects it, but you could slide into the left of it and clobber it. So we'll definitely need to protect that, and I think have a few more probably along where the walk is.
I think before you could do bollards there, it would have to go to the traffic advisory committee.
Oh, yeah.
To make a recommendation. I did suggest that to the chief when I emailed him. And we can certainly revisit that when we go to the select board for the change orders. Because I agree with you, we need something there to protect that entrance and people.
Perhaps
Maybe
have something that blinks, like when you go up Worcester Street, in front of the old fire station, there are two, I'm sure I've seen them, two signs that have solar panels that provide the electricity. And they have, you know, flashing yellow lights that say, I don't know, entering congested area or slow down or something.
yeah,
So-
that'll help with general things, but it wouldn't prevent what just happened. So I think the bollards are the only way to really do that.
Well, I think we need both. And then I think
Yeah.
we also need like a turn, like a right-hand turn, illuminated right-hand turn sign
Yes.
too. Would probably make sense. Maybe
Yep, I
back
agree.
pre-barn, you know?
I totally
Because
agree.
we've had two incidents there in less than 9 months.
Yeah, it's been about 6 months.
6
The
months.
other
yeah.
one, I don't know. Do we know if the other one was a drunk driver, Andy? It
think
was.
I think it was,
There were
yeah.
3 kids, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So they were drunk. They took out 2 sections of fence, granite, which still hasn't been put back in. And I talked to Paul Neuer about that. He said because that was left open so that the contractor could get vehicles in and out
Right.
on that side. So it's still on their radar screen that.
Yeah.
So,
I remember when it happened, he said he wouldn't do it until fall.
Yeah.
So
Andy, what is left on the project? Because I was looking at the granite posts the other day, and there's still a lot of paint on those. So they haven't done that work yet. And it doesn't look like they've done any work to, you know, I know they were apparently painted earlier this year, but there's some rotted fence posts and so that was included in our scope.
Yeah, so I was going to take a walk through there this weekend and just do sort of a punch list because there's paint cleanup. There's where the conduit was run up on the you know, they cut a channel into a groove into the granite posts. That's supposed to be grouted in. So there's a few, you know, there's a few minor details like that we need to just make sure get done that were part of the scope. So that's the one thing that needs to still happen is sort of a punch list to make sure that stuff gets taken care of.
And then of course there was some level of work on the bandstand that was included too, which helps to hold this whole thing open.
Right.
While we work through this, right?
Yep. And
Okay.
the final tie-in to the electrical for the lights and everything too needs to happen.
Which we're beholden to National Grid for, right? Yeah.
Well, we're just waiting for them to remove the pole. That's really well, no, that's true. They have to tie in the final service too.
yeah. And I spoke to the electrician who was installing the lights a week ago. And just because it occurred to me that I think repetition is important in that situation. I said, have you had any discussions, or has anyone told you what kind of bulbs we want to put in there? Because we want nice yellow lights. We don't want any super bright lights. We want
Off white. Yep.
low Kelvin count. And so he said, oh, okay, yeah, actually somebody was just asking about that. And I think the jam guys were asking him if that he was asking them and they didn't know. So I said, well, I want, low, like 2700 Kelvin, whatever's possible like that. We do not want bright white. We want more of a yellow.
Yeah.
So he said, okay.
Yeah, that actually bounced back to me, and that was one of the things I was going to ask you all about tonight was just the type of light bulb that we wanted to have in those. But if that unless
LED, right? So, and I know they make LED that can be soft white type
Yeah.
lighting versus the
Right.
bright white. We just don't want bright white because it's
Right.
just not in keeping with the look.
Yep. Okay.
Did anyone have questions about, I know it's not on the agenda, but about the library? Oh, we got Andy here.
Well, Paul, we should still talk about the backflow preventer.
Oh, thank you. I totally lost sight
Right.
of that. Thank you, please.
So where we are with that is I literally got a photograph from PJ today. He was drawing the detail for that whole backflow preventer connection from the water main to the irrigation system, at what the new what that whole thing looks like. It's been a little bit of a redheaded stepchild. Nobody wants to own this one. The Grafton Water District didn't want to. They'll give us a piece of this, but they don't own it. Nobody from the town wanted to. There's no engineer in the middle of this thing. Basically, everybody's like, oh, it's simple. It's just you connect this thing to this thing with this thing in the middle. But that's a little hard to price.
Yeah.
If all you've got is a verbal. So PJ's actually been drawing that thing up today so that he can give it to his folks to get a final price. He said he thought it was somewhere between $10,000 and $14,000. I would have thought it would have been max 10,000. So I'll wait till he gets an actual firm price on that, which should be tomorrow, given that he just had that sketch finally done today. So I'm hoping to see what that looks like. And honestly, I don't know if he was including the price of the chamber or whatever it is that the water district is providing already. So that I'm not sure where that price is going to go, but it shouldn't be up in the 14s. It should be 10 or below.
Yeah, it was the piping, right? That they were providing. They're not providing the actual backflow preventer, which Paul had said was like a $250 part.
Right. Yep.
No one wants to own this. And Andy was a little concerned that we were getting bogged down with looking for, our solution to hiding this. So I just reassured him that, yeah, we are talking about that because it is something we need to consider, but it's not something that's holding up the change order at all. And we know the work is needed. If we want to have an irrigation system for a new lawn.
Right. So I think we're this close to having this thing finally settled. Now that we've got a detail that I know Paul Canoyer's looked at it. So everybody that is involved has basically agreed what the scope is. Now we've got something that we can actually point to that describes the scope. So the final thing is to just get the final price together on that, and then we should be able to put something together in terms of a change order to make this thing happen.
Andy, I was looking at the grass and it's coming pretty nicely overall, but
Yep.
there's still some areas that are bare, and I'm thinking that it's going to need to be reseeded in the spring. Is that something that JAM owns, or would we have
yeah.
to hire someone separately?
Nope, they definitely own that. That's a warranty item, so they own that 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
I saw them out there picking up all the hay and stuff,
Mhm.
which was nice. That made a big difference. But
Well, that's a pretty normal thing. If they plant in the fall, they still own it in the spring. So no, they definitely still own that.
okay.
Right. It's come in pretty well, but yeah, as Paul says, not perfect.
Do we know anything about that cherry tree that was out lost? Because we didn't factor that into the trees that we replaced all the other ones that we knew about, and then after the fact that tree got hit and taken out. So we've lost the flowering tree. I think the town is getting insurance money from that, so we should
Yep.
explore that and see about getting a new tree of the town, put a new tree up there. So that's another thing we should bring up to the select board.
True, true.
All right, so what about the library? We didn't, we didn't hear anything more about the generator. I did talk to Paul Canoyer. He said that there are different versions that you can get. Some of them have the tank on the top, which makes it taller. Some of them have it on the side, which makes it longer, which is probably preferable for that because from those pictures he sent, most of them would be over that retaining wall on the back. But if it was longer, it probably wouldn't be. And then, it's still going to be in that corner, which is where the teen garden or whatever it is they're putting in there. So we
Yep.
could incorporate fencing to mask that with that, and people for the most part probably wouldn't even realize it's there. But I don't know. They're still looking for the right one and pricing for that, as far as I know. Have you heard any more, Andy?
I talked to Evan about it when we were talking about it before a few weeks ago, and he just said he was going to take it under advisement. He was going to talk to the select board about it. It wasn't a building committee thing for the library, and it wasn't really something for us. It was, he said, it's as in terms of the library being a public asset, he wanted to take a look at it, and that he would run it up the flagpole for the select board and then get into some of the details in terms of if we're really going to go for it and go forward with it, then, then he'd get more specific with, models and making sure that it fits. He understood what the issues, what the concerns were. But we also, I think that fortunately, we have a very good location for it. It doesn't really change anything that's being installed right now. So I think overall, we certainly have a very good shot at, if the town decides, if they elect to do it, we've got a location for it, and we'll be able to spec something that'll fit there and be fine.
What about the screening for the AC units? We haven't heard anything further on that in quite a while.
No, I know. And I just sent a note to the OPM for the library asking about that, just for some pricing on that. I haven't seen anything. So I'm wondering where that is. The construction manager for the library has now gone through, like, the three major players that we worked with for the project are all gone. So I'm not sure where we are with that, but I'm hoping to get an answer back shortly. I mean, we've got a meeting on Monday, right, John? So that's
Right.
one of the questions that we ask is, where are we with this?
Okay. Is there another item that we were still hanging out for? Bill, was the signage? Anything with signage? I know there was a sign that they were talking about out front by the walkway. I don't know that we approved that one. I know the one for the wetland we approved, but I don't remember what it was specifically that we were looking for.
Seems like we approved something and it's to direct them to the back, which is the main entrance, but we approved, it seems like that's ancient for
Right,
history. That's old.
right.
So that's approved.
It was just a
thought-
minor sign.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a minor sign that's by the front door, old front door, to say handicapped access, main
The
entrance,
rear.
go around the side. That's it. That's a very small sign, I believe.
Yeah, I think at Monday's meeting, I want to find out what's up with signs in general, because it seems like we've got several signs that have just gone away. I don't know where they stand. The main sign that says Grafton Public Library on it, I keep driving by there expecting to see it in, and it's not in. So we'll find out on Monday, hopefully.
Andy, what size generator are they going to put in there? Do you know?
I don't know, Bill. No, I'm not sure. I'm sure it'll be, that we know what the load is in the library, so they'll be able to do something. They'll be able to size something appropriately. But
Yeah, Paul was saying, whether it'll depend on whether they want something that will cover everything or if they're going to only have it do certain things. It would be far easier if it covered everything. But there's an expense with that too. So.
Sure. And it's bigger, yeah. Okay. Do we have anything else to discuss?
I don't think so. Oh, I did send the minutes. We could approve the minutes from our
Oh.
last meeting.
Yes, right. I did look at those. Where are those? I found one error on the first minutes.
It's only one set. You mean the first page?
The ones from August 19th.
Those are already all approved.
Oh, those were approved.
Yeah, it's just the ones from our last meeting last week.
Oh, okay. Forget about that then. Don't think I got to those yet. No.
Folks want to take a look at them?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up.
I sent it earlier this afternoon.
There it
Who's
is.
Brad?
Yes.
I can't see who's attending. But I don't
Oh.
see Brad's picture. There he is.
Okay.
All right, he's still there.
You had to wake him up.
He's awake.
What?
Anyone having trouble finding them? Because I can resend them if necessary.
Should we let Andy go?
Yeah, that would be nice, Andy.
Yes.
He probably hasn't eaten dinner yet. Thank
right.
you, Andy,
you.
and
you
appreciate
very much,
you,
Andy.
taking the time to go back to PJ and work with him on this. And yeah, we'll get her done.
Yes, we will. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Andy.
Appreciate your help.
This is the one with the where we had a discussion with the what is it, the holiday decoration, right? That's the
Yep.
one.
Yep, it's from October 21st.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Okay. I think it looks good. No major things missing from there.
Did you say something's missing?
No, I didn't see any missing
Oh, okay.
bullet points.
I tried to capture the points that we need to get back to Jen Anderson on. For some of them, we don't know yet. So
Right.
we don't know when the power will be there.
Yeah.
We don't know if we're
That was
moving
all.
forward.
Yeah.
The second to last paragraph, correction, third to last paragraph on page 2, it says an updated quote has been provided. So you need a
Provided.
Added T provided. Yeah.
Third to last paragraph
third last from the bottom.
should
An updated quote.
read provided. Okay. I will fix that typo.
Yeah, okay, looks good to,
Yeah, I don't see any other problems. Would someone like to make a motion to accept the minutes?
I will. Motion to accept.
Thank you. Anyone want to second that?
Second.
second,
Okay. And
Brad or Pam? I didn't catch it. Who seconded? I'm sorry.
okay. I declare the motion passed.
I still don't know who seconded. I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Oh,
Was it
I
Brad?
did. Brad.
Brad, okay. Thank you. Sorry.
So are we ready to adjourn?
Oh, that was unanimous. I'm sorry.
Yes, it was unanimous.
Okay, thank you. I think so. I didn't have anything else. I don't know if anyone else. Thank you for clarifying what it was we were looking for, and I apologize if I didn't convey what we were looking for adequately to them. So sorry that we have to meet again. But like I say, we'll get it done.
Yeah.
I wrote down, sorry,
Oh, I just want to say thanks, Paul. I know you're doing a lot of stuff, and it's even a lot just to keep the minutes and write them up and get them out. And I mean, you do a lot of stuff, so I really thank you.
That's all right. I do it because I like it, Betsy. I'm a glutton for
second
punishment.
that.
we're glad you like it.
I totally agree with you, Betsy.
Yeah.
He
I
does
like
do a
to,
lot.
I like to give back to the town. Got a great town. I like to see.
Appreciate your effort.
Thank you.
I want to make sure, Paul, that I wrote down the right. I wrote Backflow Preventer. It's going to be up to about 10,000. Is that right? Am I?
He said that his quote was so far, and he hasn't given
14,000?
a quote yet, was 10 to 14,000. And Andy had expected it to be around 10, just, his own estimate.
Okay. Great, thank
So-
you.
So we'll see where it ends up. It hasn't, that was just the PJ, who's like the owner, looking
Mhm.
at it. He hasn't gone to his staff for the final pricing and all.
Gotcha. Okay, no, but that's like, at least, because so many people were worried that it was gonna be $100,000. So at least that gets us in the ballpark of well under $20,000 is a very safe bet.
That's a big difference. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where they were coming up with figures, but it was exceptionally high.
Who was coming up with figures?
Backflow Preventer.
The people that were concerned about us doing it. I don't,
Who was, I didn't know anyone was concerned.
I'll tell you later.
Okay, all right. This is news to me. I didn't even know anyone was really aware we were even contemplating it, other than CPC. So maybe that's where it's coming from. So, all right.
Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
Brad.
Brad again? All right, Brad.
Quick on the buzzer.
all right, so we're gonna have a next meeting a week from
Next. Today.
today,
Wednesday.
right? Yeah, a week from today, 6
6
a.m.
o'clock.
Wednesday.
it was at 6.
Wednesday, the 3rd at 6 is what
6 o'clock.
I heard.
And it's gonna be remote. Okay.
It'll be remote. And Bill, you'll take care of scheduling that?
Yes.
Would
And
you
let me know
rather-
in the next, I'll do that on Friday, so let me know by then if that's not gonna happen.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to the town administrator's office tomorrow.
I would say, because remember they close, make sure he knows that. They close at noon on
Oh,
Friday.
yeah, they close
That's
at
you.
1
1
o'clock.
p.m. Yep.
1 o'clock on Friday. And that's why
Yeah.
I had to move ours, because I sent it in at 1:02.
But if you don't get it to them by noon, it's
Yeah,
too
they
late.
probably won't do it. Yeah. So if you're gonna do it on Friday, get it in the morning early.
Writing myself a note.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you,
Okay.
everybody, for your time.